right. Well, welcome to CS Office Hours. And I'm excited. This is we're kicking off change management for the month of June. And let me just go ahead and share the slide real quick so you can see it is officially change management. Basically for change management, I wasn't sure what to call this session, because it's change management is this behemoth topic, which is why we're taking a month for it, and still it's not every topic you could do about change management. And so I added to get started because you can't ever say it's like everything you need to know, but this is change management. So, and Ashna Patel, say hello, Ashna.
Hello.
She's going to help me out this week, but we also have some other folks who are going to be helping out along the way. I saw Devin. Devin, do you want to come and say hi real quick? Devin is later on this month.
Hello, everyone.
Yay. Hi, Devin.
Great to be here with you all.
And once we get finished up with change management per se, we're talking about sort of storytelling and how you communicate change management. Kyle's going to help me with that. Kyle Yantis, do you want to say hello real quick? Say hi.
Hey, everybody.
Yay. Is there anybody else who's co-leading on change management that I can't see because we're over to more than one page and I can't see everybody? But if you are, then say hello.
Hey, Jan, Keishla's here. I'm here for the top half.
Awesome. Hey, Keishla. So Keishla is going to be with us next week. Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and dig in. And actually, what I'm going to have you do as we dig in is first over in the chat. Let me make certain I can see the chat. Over in the chat, tell me why you think there are shoes and hats on this slide.
Accessories. This is what I breed every day.
Yes, they are accessories. That's true.
Good guess.
Why else might we have shoes or hats on this slide? We all wear different hats. You can change them. Mostly it will. You grow out of shoes.
Grow out of shoes.
Sure. There's a lot of, okay.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do a little exercise with these shoes and hats. I want you to close your eyes. All right. And I can see you. So close your eyes. I mean it. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about those shoes. Now, what type of shoes do your customers wear? What sort of shoes do you think they would wear? All right, I'm going to think about your customer's shoes. Now, in your mind, not in reality, but in your mind, think about if you took off your shoes, right? So take your shoes off in your mind, put on your customer's shoes, stand up and look over at where you were. Okay, this is all in your mind's eye. That is your customer's perspective. Okay. All right. That's the first thing. That's when you're wearing your customer's shoes, you're thinking about it from your customer's perspectives. You don't have your shoes on. You've got your customer's shoes on. Now, I want you to think about your customer a little bit longer. I want you to think about the hats they might wear. When you're working with your customer, say when you're onboarding them, is that onboarding the only onboarding that they're doing? Is that onboarding the only thing that they do, or do they have a day job? In their day job, what are all the different kinds of things that they're doing in their job? What all are they responsible for, right? Now, I want you to think about the other types of hats they might wear, like outside of work. Do they have kids? Are they taking care of parents, pets? Are they moving? Maybe their office is moving. Maybe they have to go into the office again and they haven't been going into the office for a while. all of these things are all the various hats and things that are on their plate, things that are going on for your customers. So you go ahead and open up your eyes. And I just want you to think, when you're thinking about shoes and hats, I want you to think about your customer from your customer perspective, what they're experiencing and what kinds of things we're adding to their plate, what other hats we're adding on top of all the other hats that they wear, and what other shoes that they're wearing other than your shoes and your perspective. Okay. All right. Here's another one. Why is this picture here?
You can put down your answer in the chat. Yep.
Yeah. Who moved my cheese? Thank you. Exactly that. I wanted to get like that picture of like that, you know, classic picture.
Cheese.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is what I was able to find for free on the internet, which is a nice looking, you know, picture for.
It did the trick.
But anyway, so yeah, and also because it looks delicious. It's almost dinner time here. So when you think about it, change is disruptive. That even if there's just cheese that, somebody moved to a different position, right? They sort of like, who moved it? It's a big deal, right? And that's because, that's because it can be, jarring, right? Kind of an emotional thing. So, all right, now one more thing I want you to do in the chat. What are some of the key activities and skills that are needed to ensure successful changes in organizations? Communication, start with why, flexibility, comms, managing expectations, buy-in, understanding your customers' needs and challenges they're facing, buy-in from your customers,
Empathy.
adaptability, buy-in. Oh, I really thought that we actually hear empathy and understanding current state. I thought we would see project management, but I did get you sort of going into that empathy state first. I should have asked you this question first. But yeah, so I was kind of preparing you here, right? And that's because change is emotional. Okay. So before we, get into discussion and breakout groups, Ashna and I wanted to kind of share with you a few things. And this, of course, is from Britt Andreatta's book, Wired to Resist. Of course, I'm going to be referencing that. And this is actually a picture from her book. You can see it's on page 23. And so this is like the change curve, right? And so when you're looking at that, and if you want, you can just look at the slides, but what you see here, maybe I can zoom in on this. Whoops. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? Oh, this is slideshow. Anyway, I don't know if I can make it bigger, but if you look at it, so it starts off with shock and denial. So the first thing, when you announce the change, it's disruptive. It changes the status quo. And then the first reaction you're going to get really is like fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, stress, confusion, right? All of these things that people are, reacting to change in this way, right? At the very bottom of this curve is resignation, even like depression comes in, right? Mm-hmm. And then you've got resignation. Now, the thing is it looks like, yes, it's uphill, and so it's going to get better, but you can't always assume that, yes, it's going to get better. There's actually 3 ways that things can go when you're at the bottom of this curve. You can have where, like, you think about change at work, people can resign, they can leave. And if you can think about that in your experience, you probably have seen that when there's major changes going on, people are like, I'm not on board with this, and they leave, right? Then you can see that change can be abandoned. And if you've ever tried to implement some sort of change, oftentimes as a consultant, you try to do that, right? And so when you do that, sometimes what will happen is they will abandon the change, right? And they're just like, this is too much, it's overwhelming. And they say, put the brakes on it. We're not going to do this change. But the other is they can have resigned acceptance, where they emotionally agree to it and they accept. It doesn't mean that they're really excited about it yet. Kind of as it goes further on, that's when they have commitment to it. But then eventually, if they do continue to accept this, change, then eventually it becomes a new normal, right?
Yeah.
And then there's some other things in terms of the brain on change, but does this resonate? I'll just stop for a second. Does this resonate with anybody in terms so far?
Got some thumbs up.
Yeah, got some thumbs up. Anybody want to sort of speak to something that you've experienced where it's like, oh, I thought we'd be able to change a little easier than that, or like the way that change happened to you was like overwhelming. Anybody going through that right now?
I mean, as people are thinking, I can just jump in. I know I've gone through this quite a few times, but one of the examples that you gave, Jan, and that really resonated is we went through merger and acquisition, and that is huge. And I'm sure like 50% of you, or even more than that, has gone through some sort of one of that, and that changes always. I think the fear of it's always the fear that we're going to change. Something is not going to be the same. And I think that always, it's like it tricks and it plays with your mind. And that's why those three things that you mentioned happens, that you want to leave or you want to give up. And it's just so emotional. And you feel like you put yourself in this little box and you can't get out of it. And so that's why it's like a lot of time we end up, I've seen like a lot of time, I've seen people leaving organizations, and just not adapting it. And that I've seen that, completely firsthand, because it's emotional. It plays tricks with your mind.
And what about a lot of people experiencing right now getting laid off, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge change, right?
Indeed.
And all of a sudden, everything is disrupted, right? So I'll jump back in so we can keep going and get into breakout groups and other things. But the other thing is when I came up with this title, this slide, I don't know if you, anybody, our brain on drugs, our brain on change, never mind. It's just the way I entertain myself. Okay. So, but fear and change, or the fear, I guess really what I meant to say is the fear of change really is really what it is mental and physical, right? Because change represents a threat. And so this gets into all the neuroscience stuff that of course, Britt Andreatta is talking about, where literally the reason why it's called wired to resist, because we resist change, right? And so when we're thinking about when we want someone to adopt our product, change is a big part of it. It's not, we treat it like they're just going to be learning, but it isn't just learning. One of the hats that you could be encountering amongst your customers is they could have been the champion for the product that was ripped out and replaced by your product. And I say ripped out because it can feel that way for some folks, right? It's like everything is just ripped out. It feels like this physical, reaction, where they're emotionally, think about when you have your favorite product that you're using, you get emotionally attached. If you're in the community for that product, you're emotionally connected to the other people, right? And when the change happens, then it's a big deal. So there's actually a physical response when change happens. And there's endorphins that are released, right? There's your logical thinking and self-awareness can even be shut down. Your bronchial tubes enlarge and your heart rate increases. You have fatty acids and glycogen released from fat deposits and your liver for quick energy. Like literally your body is going through this. So if you think about when someone was going to announce to you, whether it was over Zoom or in person, you're now getting laid off. You're part of a RIF, you're a reduction in force. think about that physical reaction that happened, because I imagine it's happened to everybody in here. It's happened to all of us, I think. Is there anybody who hasn't been laid off in your, really? You haven't been laid off yet in your career? Wow.
Oh, thankfully not yet, but it's
Wow.
still pretty
Oh,
early.
boy.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's amazing. That's incredible. So there's a few people here who haven't experienced that. Is there something else, Stephen, that you've experienced where, if you haven't been laid off, where you've like experienced that sort of reaction to change?
Yeah, it's actually being the one who didn't get laid off in the team, reorging and, less people, more work, that kind of thing.
So there can still be fear when that's happening, even if it doesn't happen to you directly. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it. Rachel, what about you? Was there another experience related to change that you can think of that gave you that physical experience?
I can also relate to the career pivot piece that someone else just put in the chat, and trying to do that and having that experience and that emotional reaction like you were talking about.
Got it. Yeah, because that's change too, right? Yep. So even if you're making the proactive decision to do a career pivot, it can still be scary. It can still give you that physical reaction. Okay. So the thing is, though, really then change management requires overcoming fear, right? In order to move forward, you have to overcome that fear, which can even be physical. So whether it's happening to you or whether it's something that you're doing with your customer, it's, yep, Christine, absolutely, customer education, right? When you think about it, customer education is not just imparting some information. I mean, we know that customer education is beyond just saying this is what every button is on the page. Instead, you want to do it in like jobs to be done fashion, right? And help them think about what they want to get done. But the first thing you do when you're trying to help people become oriented to a new product, to your product, right? When you're transitioning and helping them transition, is you want to orient them to feeling comfortable and safe with you, helping them feel like you have a plan and they're going to have, sharing with them, like when you're onboarding or when you're doing customer education, letting them know ahead of time, this is the plan. This is what you're going to be doing today, right? This is what you'll be doing in the journey with us. Those kinds of things that kind of tells them you are here and you're going to end up over here, gives them comfort in knowing where they're going to be journeying today, which makes me think I should add an agenda page so that you have an idea of where you're going to be during CS office hours. But change requires a shift in mindset as well, right? Because you're changing from that fear all the way through those emotions to where they finally accept and commit. And then they feel like there's a new world order and this is all normal and this is their new normal, right? And you think about it then during the pandemic, when there was so much change going on, it was a lot to adjust to, right? And we're still sort of waiting for that new normal or something. Or maybe we do have a new normal. Maybe they asked us to go back to work and we said, nope, the new normal is I'm at home, right? That sort of thing.
And Dan, can I just jump in and say something? And this is just plug-in for the training and the enablement piece. It's not just about learning the tool. A lot of times, depending on the tool that they purchased, if they're going to adopt best practices to get the biggest ROI out of that tool, it changes the business processes that they're accustomed to working with and how they do their work. So it can be much more magnified than just learning a new tool.
Absolutely. And I know you've done a lot with that, Natasha, because we were just in a CS office hour, Success League training session, leadership training session. Do you want to share maybe a little bit of some of the things that you worked on during your onboarding process, that sort of thing?
Yeah, one of the things that I helped to bring to our North America team, we have in our company, we have EMEA and we have North America, is when we were training our customers on our product previously, we would just have consultants kind of do what I refer to as a death by PowerPoint review of the product, right? And it just went right over our customers' heads. And what I learned is our EMEA team their enablement and training team did a lot of work based on pedagogical logical science on putting together a curriculum and a series of standard training offerings, one of which, the very first training offering, was geared towards changing the mindset of the user, right? Meaning, okay, this is our tool, but these are the foundational elements you need to be aware of, and this is gonna, these are the reasons why it's going to change the way you work. And just in summary, we had a document management platform that was based on metadata driven. So essentially took our customers from working with documents in their traditional network folders to working with them on a platform where you never had to print and you never had to use your hard drive and your network folders to store documents. So that,
right.
Yeah. So that was a fundamental, oh my gosh, you're making me take my files out of my network folder and the traditional hierarchical and how we're going to organize and folders and subfolders and I'm not doing that anymore. And I can just dump my documents into this platform and just search on metadata and what's metadata. I mean, it just really, it just kind of really turned their world upside down. So the very first session they sat through was very foundational, right? We didn't throw too much at them, and it was more geared towards shifting their mindset to embrace this new way of work. And then we had subsequent, user training further down the onboarding life cycle that was more geared towards teaching them how to work with the tool.
And so, what that made me think of is think about productivity tools, right? How often do you get a productivity tool that's supposed to make it easier? You'll never have to write something down again. You'll never have to put it in a folder again. So much easier, right? Then do you actually end up using it? Do you actually get it set up? Right? Because it takes a whole change. And so that also gets into the neuroscience, right? That's where you have to do something 40 or 50 times before that thread anyway, it's a neuro something. Anyway, I'll come up with it later. But anyway, so that's a word. Details. So, but anyway, so before you actually neuron, anyway, whatever, neural pathway. Thank you. Because I said that before last week when we were talking. So the neural pathways, in order for them to get built, just at the initial sort of built, it takes 40 or 50 times of hearing it and trying it and doing it. Right? That's why during commercials, they keep repeating that phone number that they want you to know, right? Like, so that you kind of recall it. That's why video is incorporated more, because you have this visual, you have the sound, all these different ways in which you might help, to remember it. That's also building the neural pathway, right? So if your customer is using your product once a week, it could take them a year, right? 40 or 50 weeks before they start to feel comfortable, like they know what's in it, right? What if they only use it once a month, right? That could be 5 years before, or 4 years, but whatever. Anyway, it could be a long time before they feel comfortable. So that's another thing. When you're putting those shoes on and you're putting the hats on for your customer and thinking about it from their perspective, how often are they using your product, right? How much change does this require? Does it blow their world apart the way it did for Natasha? Even if it's a productivity tool and it's so much easier and better for them, will they actually adopt it? Will they just freak out, and will they just drop the change and say, I don't know, that's makes me nervous. No, let's stop. Let's stop that. That's scary, because it's emotional, right? So that's why then when we are wired to resist and we need to be wired to grow, and you take these two things together and you've got adoption, that's why these things are working against each other, because we are wired to learn. It's a survival mechanism, but it's also, we're wired to resist. That's also a survival mechanism, right? Yeah, and Keishla, that's really, really true. Do you want to say something to that about how sometimes we come in hot as CSMs because we know the product, we feel comfortable, right? And so we just come in real hot with it.
Yeah, I think what you said, if you know, it was really enlightening to me. Like, are they using it once a week? Are they using it 10 times a week? Are they, you know, and we're passionate about our thing, and we want to be all fired up about it, and we want them to be all fired up about it, but it has to be proportional and in perspective to what the change means to them, not to us. And so that was that aha there was really interesting there. So thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is if you cut it, like if I came in and I was super, super excited and you're super, super fearful, that's a mismatch, right? I'm not meeting you where you're at. So if I get more and more excited to try and get you more and more excited, does that work? Or does it just feel like, stop that? That's too much, right? So when you first meet with folks, what do you want to try to do? You want to think about what makes you feel more calm and reassured, right? What makes you feel like you have faith in someone? Maybe they've, someone who has authorities, maybe someone who's just comforting, maybe someone who shows that they have a path forward for you. And someone also earlier mentioned in the chat, giving them their why. Why is this going to help you? Giving them a reason to pay attention. Okay, so one more comment from Natasha, and then we're going to head out to breakout rooms. What do you think, Natasha?
Keishla said a word that really triggered me on this is the first aha, right? And one of the things that we work on in trying to define, our onboarding, the initial implementation is how quickly, it's not just time to first value, it's time to first aha, because really that's going to help get them, that's going to be the transition to help getting them excited about working with a new tool, right? So that's something that we try to actually identify and define in our actual implementation plan, is how quickly can we get them to their first aha.
Right, absolutely.
We made a customer cry in a good way. And we celebrated it.
That's good if it's in a good way. Well, and
like,
that's,
you're making my life so much easier, is what she said. So
well, see, then that's evidence that you've met somebody, and identified, here's the pain point, and we're going to solve this problem for you, right? And then you've given them their why, and then they're on board and they're interested and they're going to get involved, right? And then another thing too is that's why sometimes there's in-app training, right? Or like videos and things that's short videos that people can, check for and things like that, making search readily available. Anyway, so I'll set you up here. So thinking again then to shoes and hats and who the change is for. So this is going to be your breakout session. This is going to be your breakout notes. Don't forget to add your notes in. And is everybody ready to go to a breakout session? Excited to talk about this? How many folks we got here? I'm going to do 8 rooms maybe. And we'll come back in about 20 minutes. Okay. How'd that go?
Pistachio ice cream wins.
Oh, well, excellent. Actually, my niece, her fiance has an ice cream parlor over near Delray Beach in Florida, and that is the best pistachio ice cream I've ever tried. I've got to tell you, it actually tasted like pistachios. It was incredible. What other things? Pistachio ice cream for the win. How's it? Any thoughts? Any aha moments?
So a lot on our team, don't you think, Marianne? On our group with Drew and Felicia and Christine. I think, Christine, do you want to talk about the aha you had when you
Oh,
started thinking about this?
oh, sure. Oh, thanks. Hi everyone. We were just in the group talking about change management and Sandy, and thanks for calling that out. Yeah. So like I work with so Delos, we're a prop tech company, so we have building certifications and we have crosswalks with Well. Well is we're the creators of Well. We have Lead and Gresby and Reset, but I work with facilities, HR, and workplace wellness. And Jan, you did a great illustration of, the shoes and the hat. And I just thought of workplace wellness, and they're like the big shoes and the big hat, and I have these little feet and a little head. And they have a very different language than HR. And I have been spending a lot of time grouping them in my conversations together. And they have different they have different agendas, they have different goals that they need to meet, but I just always thought they were the same. And HR is sticky with the product a lot more, and workplace wellness reports to HR. So there's a very different language that I have to bend and learn. This session actually just gave me the aha, and I'm like, oh no. I was flexing, thinking that I was trying to be smart with my language and my, finesse. And and now I'm looking at them like, oh man, they're the hat. And they're looking at me like, what is she talking about? So thank you, Jan, and thank you, Sandy, and thank you, group. I'm going to definitely shift the narrative on that one. Thank you.
Nice. That's really interesting, right? It's funny. I was sitting in on a webinar that Britt Andreatta did today, and what the aha that I had was, instead of kind of creating a safe space for failure is also important when you're trying to help people, whether it's onboard or adopt or adjust to change. And so what she likes to use for the acronym of FAIL, because failure is so important to learn. The first time you try something, the first time you take a step, you fall, right? The first time and so she likes, I think it's first attempt in learning is what she likes for the acronym of FAIL, and that's another thing too. So instead of beating ourselves up about, how we, first, try to do something with our customers, think about it. Well, that was your first attempt, and we get to iterate. That's also the Scrum Master in me, always iterating.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm so glad you had that aha moment. Any other thoughts that people had where you get to revisit an aha moment again, or did you have a new one? Yeah, Christine, iteration is key for me. Any other thoughts?
Jan, in group 4, I think almost all of us came about it from a different way, but it was really about engaging all of the key stakeholders throughout the implementation, onboarding, and ongoing process when you have turnover both internally and externally, and to ensure that we continue to circle back to the initial pain that we were solving when they purchased it. And that was our thread throughout the entire time together.
That also makes me think of, it's a big deal if, you're laid off, or if you stay at a company and others are laid off, but then also with our customers, then there's all that changeover, not only within our company, but also as we're working with our customers. And because we're at that intersection between the customer and the company, we get a double whammy, right? Yes. And helping our customers through the shock that we're still going through. Yeah. And I love too that you're talking about the different stakeholders, and that really kind of resonates with what Christine was just talking about too. What about another group? I'm seeing that there's a lot of great notes in here.
Well, I know, Jan, in our group, Eric had a really good point about the stage of the company too, the size and the stage. Eric, are you still on? You had it, you put it so succinctly. Is he still with us, or did he go? he was basically pointing out that you know, again, if you're dealing like maybe with a startup or a smaller company in SMB, you know, there's like it's a flatter organization, so it's easier maybe to kind of get buy-in because you're maybe already working with decision makers or super users. But when you get to that kind of enterprise or larger company stage, it becomes much more difficult because there's more bureaucracy, more decision makers, stakeholders, and then also just the implementation of any sort of change could be an absolute nightmare. I thought that was actually a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Tim, what were you going to add?
Yeah, our theme was around the word driven, right? So you can't teach someone how much to want it. One interesting take, we talked about the leadership being involved. So usually it's like a director or VP level signing a contract for the software or your product. And when they sign, they're gone, right? Then it's up to someone else and they implement. But perhaps maybe finding out if it's part of their KPI for that quarter or that year, like make sure it's a requirement or find out and get that motivation. Because sometimes depending on a product, it can go the other way. So really making sure that they're focused and it's a requirement and there's responsibility there. And I like what you said about, you know, some people are adaptable to change, but at the same time, yeah, if it's a goal and they're motivated and driven, I've seen a lot of successful clients go through that when they're measured on that implementation as a KPI or OKR for that matter. So that was pretty resonating for us.
Gives them another why, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Natasha, did you have some thoughts on that too? Or other thoughts?
Yeah, just echoing what Tim said, that's absolutely critical. And that was a big problem for us at our company and why projects didn't go very well is when the decision maker, you know, signs off on contract, hands off to delivery team, has no idea what we're doing, why we're there, has competing projects, multiple hats, right? And doesn't really want to do this extra thing that's been given to them. So one of the things that we did and addressed in our customer onboarding checklist that we gave to our new customers is make sure that the executive sponsor tells or informs their internal teams on why we're doing this project, why it's important, and how it's going to make their lives better. Don't make the vendor do it, because by the time we get to kickoff, they need to have, you know, they need to already have that understanding so that we can focus on the actual implementation.
We used to provide change management packages for people that purchased that included all of that comm info, how to send out, when to send out the emails that talk about what the change is going to look like internally, what kinds of points you need to put across to your employees about this change and what it means for them and what the good things are that we're hoping that we're going to come out of it, because of course we all know we were suffering because of whatever's. And so we would give them all of that content. So all they had to do was basically fill in the blanks with their pain points, their solutions, and then let it roll on the timeline that we gave them that said, you know, send this one out X weeks before this. And it worked really well.
Change management kit. Who wants to steal that idea?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Even with the comms, have them fill in, you know,
draft emails, draft PowerPoint presentations for the roadshow that they have to do internally to sell it to the rest of their leadership, the rest of the mid-level leadership.
Yeah.
I really love it. I love it.
Kyle, what that
Make it
get you
easy
thinking
for them.
about? Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. What we do, rather than handing somebody a change management kit, we actually just hand them all of the PowerPoints that the rest of our customers use to onboard their own teams. So it's, don't even take my word for it. Here's a bunch of successful customers that onboarded their teams. And so you get a plethora of, you know, maybe everybody starts with the same ingredients, but they're going to come out with different dishes at the end of the day. So choose your dish, and depending on your culture and your the problem you're trying to solve with the solution.
Do they sometimes feel overwhelmed with choice though? Because I don't know if you've heard about that, you know, like well, I'm a Trader Joe's person. So I go into Trader Joe's, there's like one or two types of mustard tops. And when I'd all of a sudden gone to this other grocery store, there was like a half aisle of mustard. I was there for at least a half hour. Like I didn't, I'm like, oh my God, what should I do? And I was, finally my husband, Mark, he was like, are you coming? Like, how long does it take to get mustard? I'm like, look, and he's like, oh,
Yeah.
what do you do to help them choose between them all?
That's a great point. No, I think based on the onboarding and getting to know somebody relationship first, maybe you actually attach one or two of the onboarding decks based on what you know about the customer, but still give them the whole folder. You never know if there's a specific mustard brand that they really brings back the nostalgia and they can't find it at their local grocery store. So, give them the Kroger experience, even if they can only have a farmer's market.
So we couldn't even get our customers to read the SOW.
Well, this is definitely interesting though, right? Because sometimes then you can give them a little bit of choice, but also help them, be prescriptive and help them feel guided in some way, right? Like I was there was some tools I'm choosing between, and I was talking to somebody and catching up with her, and then she showed me the tool and I was like, oh yeah, I think I got like an onboarding email. I haven't looked at it yet. And she's like, well, tell me what you're doing. And then she sent me afterwards, like 3 different links. Do this one for sure today. This other one you should do soon. Try to do it this week. This third one sometime, kind of thing like that. Right. So that because I was feeling overwhelmed. Right.
Mhm.
So sometimes that can help. Any other thoughts, anything that hasn't been brought up that you maybe discussed in your group that we want to be sure that everyone is familiar with? Something.
Jen,
Yeah.
How do I can't, sorry, I couldn't raise my hand. I was looking for all the things. It's Felicia.
Yeah.
So I was really thinking about this more, change management with being in ed tech with teachers and students. And it was like an aha moment for me also, right? Because I'm always, when I'm talking with teachers that are changing, they're leaving their job, now they're left with the product the students are not using, and we're learning, why is the usage so low at this point? There's no real alert. It's just like, oh, we just changed everyone basically. The teachers left, and we have a new admin or a new IT person, and then there's this breakdown in communication. And so I love that idea. I have to talk with Christine about preparing them for that side, the change management side, because change is going to come. We know that. However, just telling someone to be agile, and telling them that, you can just show up and be happy, that is not equipping them or positioning them for success. And I just feel that with change, you have to have really strong communication and, just have that growth mindset. We're looking at things I saw recently from the gain side, not the gap. If you look at what you've gained, what the good things that you're doing, and that if that is your go-to perspective, you'll continue to have more successes, right? But if you're looking at it from what you'll lose, what you've lost, what's, that pit, it's hard to get out.
Mindset shift. Yeah, that's really important, and helping them achieve that.
Yes. So I'm definitely going to reach out to you and talk to you more about this, Jen, because I think like putting something together like that and bringing it to our customers to help them acclimate during this change. And asking them more questions, about how they're equipping their staff so that the students can thrive, because they're ultimately the ones that are affected by this change.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, JC, I think you're going to close us out after, and then Ashna will give us some closing thoughts.
Hey, Jan, this is Jasmine. Sorry, JC.
Oh, Jasmine, sorry.
No worries. One of the things I know we touched on, but just kind of bring it up a little bit, culture, right? I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
So I was at a conference last week, Women in Tech, Texas, and I heard Gwen Shotwell, I believe she's the CEO of SpaceX, and talk about change, right? Like, and her boss being Elon Musk. And it was beautiful how she presented the failures and things that didn't work, and, from the outside, we look at it, it's like, oh, their launch didn't work, too bad, like how much money they wasted. But their culture, like every time they have a failure, they learn something from it and it's celebrated and what they learned from it. So, I think culture is a big one too. And like change management, there's a lot of fear of failure. And I think that helps, like if you have the culture that fosters it's okay to fail. And I think someone had the first acronym on there, right? So I think that's something to consider and maybe foster some of that, or kind of figure out what kind of culture you're working with to influence.
Yeah. First attempt in learning is fail, and keeping addressing that in terms of the culture, right? And making it safe. Yeah. Ashna?
I mean, I love it. And I think it's all of today has gave me a lot of good ideas, but also one of the things is like part of our onboarding deck that we have for our customers, like a kickoff deck that we have for our customers, we have a slide on it that talks about just challenges, so what are some of the common challenges that you could come across, and change management or change specifically is part of it. Like that's something that we discuss with our customers. And like a lot of the ideas that we've talked about and discussions that we've had, it's like what I would say at the end is like, we have to focus on the positive, and that's what we have to, drive towards. It's not like change is the fear always comes around because we're thinking about, or even the customers are thinking about the negatives. I will change, or we will do this and this will happen. But we forget that there's the other half, or the other side of the coin is the positives. And I think that's what it is. It's like when we're trying to help others adapt to change, even personally too, is we have to think about the positives. And some of the exercise people, I've actually read somewhere, it's like when you're thinking about something like a change that you're adopting or something that's about to happen, like you write down 10 good things that can happen out of that, or like think about the 10 good things that can happen out of that. So I think thinking about it, adoption and working with customers specifically, or even teams to help them adapt to change, and think about what 10 things or 5 things, positive things that you can talk to them about. And I think that can really help. So just that's my closing thoughts. It's like it is a mindset. It's a shifting mindset, and it's a growth positive mindset that we need to have with change.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is the first of 3. There's going to be 3 more sessions, and next week Tishla is going to co-lead with me. And part of what she's going to be sort of getting into is, CS at that intersection as change agents, right? And really sort of digging into that. We also then the following week, we're going to have David Goldberg talking about a similar sort of change management kit and what their process was in working with their customers, and kind of showing us some examples from outreach where he was formerly. And then we're going to also have, and she was here at the beginning, and I even had her speak, and now I am with names, and she lives in Nashville, and
Kishla?
No, not Kishla. But anyway, she's our last one of the month. And had lunch with her. Sorry?
Devin Lee.
Devin, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is how it is with me. So never take offense if I forget your name. But Devin, so she's also then going to talk about when you have a change at the, like when there's a merger, or like when there's a change at the company from the top, and all of the change that happens kind of going down, right? And so like there's a lot with that. And then from that, then we'll sort of put it all together and talk about sort of storytelling and communications and that sort of thing. And that will be with Kyle. So we've got a great little journey walking through all of this in the next few weeks, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
team.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Bye.
night.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.